Howdy my totally tubular gamers. We're back with another video. Let's get to it.
So today, it's actually a bit of a rarity for me. I'm pissed. I'm absolutely livid for a number of different reasons. And so with that in mind, I thought today would be a great day to talk about games that I've rage quit. I'm already grumpy, crabby, ticked off, whatever you want to say. So yeah, we're going to be talking about games that I've rage quit in the past. I'm sure you know what rage quitting means. It's when you just get so unbelievably mad at a game for a number of different reasons that you just put it down. I'm not saying you put it down forever or never come back to it. I'm just saying in that moment during that play session, you just put the game down and either go outside or play something else. Something to just cool off, and then you can come back to the game all fresh and level-headed. I consider myself a pretty patient person, especially when it comes to people, but when it comes to games, there have been plenty of times that I've absolutely lost my shit and just stopped playing a game because I was so mad at it. And so yeah, for today's video, we're going to be talking about 15 games where I absolutely lost my shit and I rage quit these games. I did end up returning to all of them, and I have actually beaten all of them, but it sure wasn't in one play session, not with how mad I got at these games. But I'd love to know down below, what are some games that you've rage quit at? What are some games that you've just gotten so mad that you want to destroy the controller? Genuinely, I would love to know. Let's get a discussion going. If you let me know, you'll get a little heart from me. I might even respond. This list is in no particular order, and yeah, let's get to the games. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. We got the Patreon and the super thanks. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. Seriously, thank you so much, especially for the memberships. Shout out to all my members. Thank you so much. So, what's the first game? Alright, so kicking things off, we have the most recent instance of me rage quitting a game with the first Berserker KHAZAAAN. Now, I've made my beef with this game very well known, and I have expressed my displeasure for this game and its difficulty. I will say, I think the first Berserker KHAZAAN is a good game still. It does have a number of good elements to it, but it pissed me the fuck off. It pissed me off to levels that I have not gotten to in many years. Like, I genuinely was mad at this game. I didn't just rage quit this game once, twice, or even 3 times. It was 4 separate times where I just got so mad at the game that I just put it down and went outside. I literally went outside, went for a walk, a hike, I went and did something else. I just had to clear my mind. And it was always for the same reason. It was that I died to a boss like right at the end. The bosses in the first Berserker KHAZAAN are ridiculous. You just don't do a ton of damage to these bosses. You're constantly chipping away at them, and it's like a 10 to 15 minute fight out here. A 10 to 15 minute fight that you pretty much have to play perfectly or you will die. In most Souls-likes, boss fights are like 3 to 6 minutes, maybe 7 or 8 if it's towards the end of the game. In KHAZAAN, it really does go on for 10 plus minutes. So imagine my frustration when I've been fighting a boss for almost 15 minutes, I've been playing almost perfectly, only to die at the very end, and now I have to do the whole thing over again. Yeah, I was pissed. And this was already after an hour or 2 of me dying over and over just trying to figure out the boss's moveset and how to best approach it. Am I the best at these types of games? No, absolutely not. I'm the first to admit that I'm not great at Souls-likes, but I'm determined, I'm persistent, and sometimes when I lock the fuck in, I actually can beat them. And I did beat KHAZAAN. I remember though, that final boss, I got so mad at it that I was legit like shaking. I look like a fiend out here, a 3 a.m. Jack-in-the-Box tweaker. I was shaking so much, but this boss just had me absolutely livid. The final boss takes well over 10 to 15 minutes. It's the hardest boss in the entire game. It took me like 3 hours easy to beat this boss, and I even moved the game to the easier difficulty. I stopped playing on normal like halfway through. I just said this game is pissing me off too much. I've already rage quit twice and I'm not even halfway through the game, and it was still hella hard. But I beat it. I beat the game, I beat the stupid fucking final boss, and what did I do the very next day? I got rid of the fucking game. I don't want this in my collection. This game just has too many rage-inducing memories to it, and honestly, talking about it for this video has already gotten me kind of heated again, but I was already in a foul mood anyway, so it's just kind of like whatever. So fuck this game, fuck the final boss, and certainly fuck KHAZAAN. The game has plenty of good shit to it, but it really pissed me off. So here we have a game that Child Jonathan got pissed off at, and that is Mario Kart Wii. Now, the Mario Kart series has had an extensive history of upsetting individuals, especially when it comes to items. I mean, we all hate the blue shell, but we all know that it's a necessary evil. I haven't gotten mad at Mario Kart in like over 10 or 15 years at this point. I mean, it's Mario Kart. I already know that there's going to be a bunch of bullshit involved, but younger Jonathan playing Mario Kart Wii, oh, he was getting absolutely pissed. I remember throwing the Wii remote. And what's even funnier is that this was in the single player mode as well. I wanted to beat the Grand Prix on all of the difficulties so that I could unlock all of the characters and the carts. And I remember 150cc and mirror mode, there's some serious bullshit going on in this game. The rubber banding is absolutely out of control. I understand now that rubber banding really is in like every racing game to a certain extent, but Mario Kart Wii, man, it was just something else. You could be playing absolutely perfectly, getting hit by like no items whatsoever, hitting all of the tricks, hitting the shortcuts, doing as many wheelies as possible if you were on the bike. You could be playing like an absolute god, and it would mean nothing. The AI would just magically catch up to you every single time, and oftentimes they would pass you, usually at the very last minute too. Or they would just happen to, you know, by chance get a red shell or a blue shell on the third lap towards the end of the race. And I just remember being absolutely livid. I remember screaming, and I remember my mom coming in, taking the game out of the Wii and putting it in timeout because I was so mad, and I'd have to go outside and play with like a kickball or something. It felt like it didn't matter how good I was at the game. It didn't matter what I did. The AI would just magically catch up to me every single time, and there was nothing I could do about it. Obviously, as I'm older now, I understand that, yeah, it's just going to be a bit of trial and error. Sometimes the game is just going to decide that it does not want you to win, and it's going to do everything in its power to stop you. Hopefully, that isn't the case most of the time, but sometimes it's as shrimple as that. I still love Mario Kart Wii. It's like my favorite Mario Kart game of them all outside of 8 Deluxe, and I've even come back to it a few times over the years, but I am so glad I still got my old save file from all those years ago. I do not want to play through 150cc and mirror mode again. That was some nonsense. So here we have one that still has me shaking my head to this day, and that is Persona 3. And I'm not talking about Persona 3 Reload, and I'm not talking about the PSP version. I'm talking about Persona 3 FES on the PS2. Now, I love Persona 3. I love the music, the characters, the storyline, and I really enjoy the PS2 version's aesthetic. But this is one of those games that had me pulling my hair out. There were a few things that really irritated me about this game, to the point that I did rage quit it on more than one occasion. Let's begin. The whole tired mechanic that shows up in the first half of the game is some nonsense, and I don't really know why it's here. Thankfully, they got rid of it in Reload. Second, you can't control your party members. You can influence their decisions, but you cannot directly control them in the PS2 version, and the party members you get are dumb as rocks sometimes. Sometimes it feels like your party members are drooling, mindless idiots that enjoy TGI Fridays, where I'm like, why on earth would you make such a stupid fucking decision? I thought that there's supposed to be intelligence in artificial intelligence, and sometimes in this game, there sure as shit ain't no intelligence. For instance, there'll be an enemy that I fought 3 or 4 times in the past. I know what their weakness is, and I also know that if I attack them with a certain element, it'll bounce off them and will attack the party. It will reflect, and for some reason, the AI will over and over use the move that the enemy will reflect back at them, and they end up just going down, and I'm like, stop. Literally use any other move but this one. Or an enemy will be weak against a certain element. We will just say ice, and I've identified that it's weak to ice. So why is the AI not using its ice moves on it? Why is it using something else? There's no logical reasoning here, and it just pissed me off. It felt like I was completely powerless. Like I was doing the best I can, but whenever the AI went, it just felt like a dice roll, and sometimes it just didn't go my way. So all of this is already annoying, but the dungeon crawling is really annoying as well. Not only does Tartarus suck and it gets really repetitive and tedious, but the actual dungeon crawling just doesn't control all that well. Your attack, you know, the one that you can do so you get the advantage in the fight, is so delayed, to the point where enemies have gotten the drop on me because it feels like my main character is doing anything but actually swinging the damn sword. And I remember just just that bugging the hell out of me. And then we have the usual SMT nonsense where sometimes an enemy will just hit you with something that you're weak to, there was nothing you could really do about it, and then they will just wipe the floor with you. Sometimes a strong enemy or a boss will keep getting one more either because you're weak or they keep getting criticals, and they'll just wipe your whole party out in one turn. Those Hulk Hogan looking motherfuckers, they can eat a dick. They got so many criticals on me that it was not even funny. They were a real penis in my anus, that's what I'm gonna tell ya. And so all of this combined, yeah, it started to get me real irritated, and there was a few parts where I just threw the controller up and said, I'm done. I need to go do something else. This game is upsetting me. And you know what? That's why I'm so glad that we have Persona 3 Reload. It really does fix all of my issues with the original game, and I did not find myself getting mad at it a single time. And it was such a better experience. So here we got another racing game with Midnight Club 2. Now, I very much enjoy the Midnight Club series. I really wish that this series would come back. I think we all wish that Midnight Club would come back, but sadly, it's probably not. But I'm also not going to act like Midnight Club 2 totally didn't piss me the hell off. Midnight Club 2, it's a pretty great racer, and it's one of the better games in this series. My favorite is still Midnight Club 3, but I think 2 is very good, and it has an incredible soundtrack and aesthetic to it. But oh man, is it one of those racing games where the AI just magically catch up to you all the damn time. Yep, it totally has that Need for Speed ass rubber banding where you can be racing nearly perfectly the entire time only for the AI to be right on your ass basically the whole race. And I just remember Midnight Club 2 is full of this in the second half. In the first half it really isn't that bad, and it actually is quite a bit of fun. Like there's still a little bit of challenge to it, but the AI aren't just on your ass the whole time. The second half, yeah, this shit is no joke. I remember it taking me way longer to beat this game than I thought it would have because I was just replaying these races over and over. I remember some of these races would take me like 30 minutes to an hour because I'm just redoing them. And it's not like I was restarting the race the moment I crashed or the moment things weren't starting to go my way, because the way the rubber banding would work is they'd always be around you. You'd be able to actually catch up to them by the end of the race, but actually getting in front of them, oh, that's a different story. However, if you were near the end of the race and something happened like you crashed or didn't make a jump the way you thought you would, yeah, you'd be pretty much up shit creek. And I remember some of the tracks in Midnight Club 2 get pretty long. They have you driving through like this entire ass city, and sometimes the tracks themselves just don't make a lot of sense. Even with the big arrows, sometimes it's not super clear where you're going to go next, and that also leads to some trial and error because you gotta actually, you know the racetrack if you want to win the race. And so by the second half, I rarely, in fact, I don't think I ever won a race on my first attempt like at all. And I remember towards the end of the game there was one or two moments where I was ready to just scream. I remember at one point I just put the game down, went outside, touched some grass, and then came back to it, and then I finally was able to beat the race. Like, I did beat Midnight Club 2, and I did enjoy my time with it, but those last few races, man, the game really stopped being enjoyable. Even when I was locking the fuck in, I was still having a pretty hard time with this. And then I remember moving on to Midnight Club 3 and Los Angeles, and I never had any difficulty issues with those like I did with Midnight Club 2. The balancing is just a little whack in this game. So here we have another game that I got mad at pretty recently, and that was Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Now, I did not play this game growing up. I did not play it until very recently, and I played that new collection, the one with the save states, and even with that, I found myself getting pretty mad at this game a few times. I didn't ever scream out in anger or want to throw my Switch or anything like that, but I remember there was at least one instance where I just put the game down and said I'm going to play something else because that actually made me mad. Now, Castlevania is no stranger to difficulty and rage-inducing levels. I mean, every Castlevania game is difficult to some extent, and Circle of the Moon is no exception. Out of all of the Metroidvania Castlevania games I've played, it's easily the most difficult. They also really wanted you to grind, it seems, and I didn't grind hella, and so it's very clear that I should have. I also don't like this game's card system, where you combine cards for some really powerful abilities. The reason I don't like this is because it's completely random if you actually get good cards or not, and after playing all the way through the game, I just never seem to get any good cards, and I couldn't make any good combinations. I looked online what the best cards are, I looked online the most powerful combinations, and I just couldn't make any of them. I've heard some people say the game is stupidly easy with certain combinations. I somehow just did not get any of these fucking combinations. And so with that, the game was actually real challenging for me, especially the boss fights. It really was the boss fights where I struggled the most, where it just felt like I was hitting them over and over over and over again, and it just felt like I wasn't doing a lot of damage to them. I mean, I straight up wasn't doing a lot of damage to them, and even with a little bit of grinding, like, I just felt so far behind, but my ass was determined. I kept going at it. I kept fighting these bosses, doing barely any damage and playing almost perfectly against them because they also just did a shit ton of damage. And I remember what really was upsetting me was that if a boss was just getting near me, I was getting hurt for a few of these. And some of these bosses, their movements felt almost random, like they were just jerking all over the place. Like how I see those San Francisco crackheads jerking all over the place. It was just ridiculous. It was completely unpredictable, and it led to me playing in ways that weren't exactly all that fun. And I remember for one fight in particular, I just said, fuck this, I'm just gonna keep save stating because I really am not having a good time with this, and I don't enjoy replaying a 5 to 10 minute fight over and over and over. Like after like an hour, I finally called it and just used the save states. But overall, I think this is just one of those games where your mileage will really vary. If you get good card drops, if you grind a little bit, maybe you'll have a better experience with this one than I did. I still did enjoy the game and I had a fair amount of fun with it, but I really prefer all of the other Metroidvania, Castlevania games. I also didn't like double tapping in a direction to run. I thought that got really irritating and my thumb started to hurt by the end of it. What I'm trying to say is I was becoming more and more like Cranky Kong the more I was playing this game, and so I was very glad when I finally beat it. I seem to also be getting Cranky Kong's hairline, but I also went and did something about that, so that shit ain't getting me. Alright, so here's a game that I've been raging at my entire life, and that is Dejct 2. Does this game really need an introduction when it comes to rage quitting? Like, this is one of the prime examples of rage quitting from the 2000s. Dejct 2 just has so much bullshit in it. Like an unbelievable amount of nonsense in it. This game is just way harder than it has any right to be. I've seen plenty of people say, oh no, the game wasn't actually that hard, you just aren't very good. No, the game is still pretty difficult even nowadays, especially for a 3D platformer. And it just has some incredibly challenging missions to it, and I remember even as a kid, I was just screaming at this game. The mission where you're stuck on the docks just constantly being swarmed by enemies and you literally cannot do anything else till you finish this mission. Yeah, I was on that for way too long, and I remember trying to throw my controller. I was so mad at this. The races, especially the one against Errol, I fucking hated this. It always felt like he was catching up to you, and it always felt like he was faster, and the cars can be a little finicky at times. The mission where you're on the skateboard, well, the hoverboard, and you gotta throw the bombs, and you just barely have enough time to complete this. Oh yeah, that one had me mad. Honestly, I could do a whole list about Dejct 2 and its difficult missions. I remember like Game Informer, one of those game magazines, literally did a top 10 most difficult missions in Dejct 2. That's how difficult this game was. That's how bullshit this game was. And I just remember as a kid flipping my lid with this game. Like, I just could not take it. But I still did end up beating the game somehow. I've beaten Dejct 2 like 2 or 3 times now, and while I still think it is a good game, I will never forgive it for the trauma that it gave me. Because that's what this fucking game did. It gave me downright trauma. I can never trust the same again. You know, after saying that out loud, I guess my childhood was pretty good, all things considered. But man, Dejct 2, ugh. So here's one that I'm sure a number of people are going to agree with me on, and that is Dark Souls 2. Now, I love all the Dark Souls games. I even really like Dark Souls 2. But this game pissed me off more than any of the other Souls games by From. It pissed me off more than Sekiro, more than Elden Ring, and certainly more than Armored Core did. Dark Souls 2 just has a few areas and bosses to it that are just fucking bullshit. I don't really have any other way to describe it. The enemy placement is just so unfair. Now, Dark Souls 1 absolutely had this as well, but it feels like in Dark Souls 2, they really just cranked it up to a ridiculous level. There are so many areas where the enemies just get the drop on you over and over and over. It feels like you have barely any room to go anywhere and a bunch of enemies just swarm you, and it just feels really cheap. It feels cheaper than any of the other Souls-likes, more than Sekiro, more than even Elden Ring, and Elden Ring is like 2 or 3 times the size of Dark Souls 2. And then some of these bosses, like the fucking Smelter Demon, Jesus H. Christ, leave me alone, man. The Smelter Demon, I still get nightmares about this fucking guy. And then he showed up in Elden Ring Night Rain, and he was actually a cakewalk. But Dark Souls 2 absolutely did have some bosses that it felt like they were just wiping the floor with me over and over, and it felt like there was barely anything I could do. I have actually played through Dark Souls 2 2 times at this point, and I do enjoy my time with the game, but there are certain boss fights where I'm just like, I don't want to fight this boss, I don't want to fight this boss. And then I remember the DLC for Dark Souls 2, the DLC was hella hard, I remember. Like, the hardest boss in the whole damn game is in the DLC. I believe he's called the Fume Knight. Yeah, that was no joke. That, I remember I actually just had to put the game down and go do something else. This was way before Souls-likes had totally taken over, so there was still some kind of novelty, but I remember that boss really did make me mad. Dark Souls 2, a lot of good stuff to it, but... So here's an older one that may surprise you. It's actually a game I've never talked about on the channel a single time, and that is Batman for NES. I actually really like the old Batman game on NES. The music is sick, it's got this dark atmosphere to it, and I would say that it's genuinely one of my favorite NES games ever, and I think it actually holds up decently well, but this is a hard fucking game. Like, Batman on NES is no joke. It is old school difficult. It is one of those NES hard games where it's only like an hour or two long, but you'll be replaying these levels so many times over that the game will take several hours to complete. And yeah, it absolutely did take me several hours to beat this game. You need to do the most precise platforming in order to get through some of these levels. It will 100% test you, and the boss fights, man, they can just wipe the floor with Batman. And of course, when you die, you're gonna have to play through the entire level over again, and yeah, that happened just way too many times to me, especially when I was younger. And I remember one day just getting so mad that I closed my laptop. I say laptop because I was just a kid and I was playing it on an emulator with the keyboard of all things, and no, I did not know what save states were. I was pretty young. It was like my first emulator. I remember just closing the laptop and like almost throwing the laptop. I was so mad. I think it was the boss fight against Joker towards the end of the game. Batman on NES is old school difficulty at its finest, and even though the game does have plenty of good things to it, it's one of those games where it feels like you're just kind of banging your head against the wall, trying over and over to beat it, and there really was just a lot of trial and error here. This is one I haven't come back to in quite some time, and I do wonder if I came back to it if I would struggle as much as I did when I was younger. One day, I'll have to check this one out again. I have a feeling I'd still be bashing my head against the wall. And so here we have Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. Now, you knew Crash Bandicoot was going to be somewhere on this list. I've been playing Crash Bandicoot my entire life. I've gotten pissed at Crash Bandicoot my entire life. But no Crash game has actually pissed me off as much as Wrath of Cortex. And I know that might seem odd, so let me try to explain. I 100%ed Wrath of Cortex when I was a kid, and I remember just getting absolutely livid at it. Nowadays, I think Crash Bandicoot 1 and 4 are much more difficult games, especially if you want to 100% them, but as a kid, I never tried to 100% Crash Bandicoot 1 because I just didn't think it was even within my realm of possibility. Crash 4 obviously wasn't out yet, but I did manage to 100% Crash 2, Crash 3, and I thought, hey, Wrath of Cortex, I can 100% this game for sure. I did the other games. Wrath of Cortex is a bit more difficult than 2 and 3 if you're going to 100% it. And I just remember that there are a bunch of levels and sequences in this game that had me wanting to rip my little kid hair out. Especially the secret levels at the very end of the game. And this is again only if you're 100%ing it. If you're talking about just playing through the game normally, no, I didn't lose my shit at Wrath of Cortex. But when I was trying to 100% this game, I remember turning into the Incredible Hulk. I was so mad at it. I just remember being so unreasonably angry at it. Obviously, the difficulty is going to be a lot higher in a Crash game. If you're trying to 100% it, you need to destroy all the boxes, you need to get all of the gems, etc. And there's just a bunch of levels where it's really easy to miss the boxes. And I remember there's just a number of levels to this game, especially when you're Coco, where you have less than 2 seconds to hit some of these boxes, and if you miss it, you're gonna have to restart the whole level. Like, you do not get another attempt to destroy some of these boxes. And I remember getting to like the very end of a level and missing one of the last boxes and having to redo the entire level, and this was after many attempts, and it just put Kid Jonathan in agony. Something else that put me in agony was that I was playing the PS2 version, which just has these horrendous load times, and so sitting there watching the damn loading screen over and over because I failed to destroy all the boxes, yeah, I could see why a child would get mad at that. The time trials, the relics, I remember also had a lot of trial and error. You pretty much had to have the perfect run if you wanted to make the best time, and I just remember trying some of these levels, like the damn ball level, over and over and over. Like, for a while there, I never wanted to see Crash Bandicoot in another fucking ball for the rest of my life. But then Crash 4 showed up, and you know what? They did a good job with that one, so I rescind my statement. Either way, Wrath of Cortex, it's a pretty okay game. It has some good things to it, but it also has some stuff that kind of sucks about it. I wouldn't recommend anybody 100% this game, not just because I lost my shit at it as a child, but I just don't really think it's worth it at the end of the day. But who knows, maybe it's just the pain and suffering that I received from this game that causes me to think that way about it. I just haven't really ever loved it outside of the music. Alright, a list like this, I knew Need for Speed was going to be somewhere on it. I could have chosen plenty of different Need for Speed games, but I'm going with Need for Speed Underground. There has never been a Need for Speed game that has gotten me as mad as Underground 1. Like, I remember the first time I played through this game, which was only a few years ago. I didn't actually grow up with it. I was just in shock with how mad I was getting at it. The rubber banding is just so out of control here. You'll find more rubber banding in this game than a damn factory. While it doesn't start out all that bad, the second half of the game, really the last like 10 to 15 missions, it is just absolutely absurd. There is no other word for it. The other drivers just always manage to catch up to you in seconds, literal seconds. It doesn't matter that they crashed like 8 times over the course of the race. They're somehow always on your ass. It is ridiculous. And it just got to a point for me towards the very end of the game. I think it's like mission 95 where I finally just threw the controller. I was like so mad. I was like, I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm gonna play something else. I remember I actually moved on to Underground 2, had some fun with that, and then went back to Underground 1 to finally be done with it. Like, all of the races towards the end of the game are 5 to 7 minutes long, and if you mess up in the last 30 seconds to a minute, yeah, it's over. Just restart right there. You'll never catch up to them. And you might go, well, just don't mess up then. I really wish it was that shrimple. I absolutely do. I wish that world hunger had been fixed. I wish there wasn't a fentanyl crisis. I wish TGI Fridays tasted better. And I wish the traffic wouldn't randomly spawn in front of you like it does in Need for Speed Underground. The traffic, oh my gosh, the traffic had me screaming out here. There is no rhyme or reason to it. The traffic is incredibly inconsistent. It literally will just spawn right in front of you in the worst possible position just to get in the way. There is nothing else to it. And I had numerous different instances where I'm at the very end of the race and a random fucking minivan will spawn right in front of me in the worst spot. I hit it, oh, it's over. Time to restart the whole damn race. I remember this game, it just got me so angry, and my girlfriend at the time was like, just stop playing the game. You're getting so mad. And I was like, I gotta beat this fucking thing. I gotta beat Underground. I can't let this shit defeat me. And yeah, I beat it. Was it worth it? Probably not. I should have just stopped before the last like 10 missions. I think Underground is a good game. It's got a great atmosphere to it, but man, those last missions can just fuck right off. And in Underground 2, it's pretty much the same thing. Need for Speed has always had rubber banding issues, but Underground 1, it takes it to just a different level. Oh, you knew I wasn't done with Mario. Now, Mario Sunshine's catching strays in this video as well. When I was a kid, Mario Sunshine had me so unbelievably angry that I think at one point my dad actually took the GameCube away from me. Like, what can I say? As a kid, I had no patience. I only had a little bit of time to play video games every day, and it felt like I would completely waste it on some of these levels. I can just tell you immediately for Super Mario Sunshine, the levels that had me raging beyond belief are the levels that FLUDD is taken away from you. The levels where FLUDD are taken away from you are like the hardest part of this game, and all these years later, I still actually struggle with them. I can see why Kid Jonathan got so mad. Mario is just so sensitive in these levels. It's so easy to slide off, it's so easy to fuck up in the tiniest way and you're just dead. And while there are a few easy levels, most of the levels where you don't have FLUDD are genuinely challenging. Like Sunshine is still the hardest 3D Mario game by a landslide, it's not even close, and I'm surprised that Kid Jonathan was able to beat some of these levels. There's a lot of trial and error, you have to be really careful and take your time, and it's not uncommon to just slide off for the stupidest fucking reason. There are two levels in particular that I remember really upsetting me. There's one where there's just this block rotating and you need to just stay on the block and it's really easy to fall off. And then the other one is with the Chucksters. The Chucksters are just horrible. Like, this is just terribly designed where they have to throw you to the next platform. It should be really easy. You just talk to them, they throw you, that's it. But no, you have to be in a certain spot, you have to be at a certain angle. Otherwise, they'll throw you into the abyss in Mario Z's just going into the Shadow Realm. And it's just way too finicky for its own good. Like, it is so janky and finicky and it feels like you're cheesing it just to complete the level normally. Like, this is just bad. Look, Sunshine's difficulty spikes are well documented at this point. There are plenty of other levels where you actually do have Flood that are also very difficult, but as a kid, I never even attempted these. You didn't really have to do most of them, like the stupid watermelon, yeah, I just didn't even bother as a child. But the levels where you don't have Flood, oh yeah, that was ridiculous. And then don't even get me started on those fucking blue coins. As a kid, yeah, it just wasn't even within my realm of possibility to get all of these. As an adult, I just laugh. I'm like, why the fuck would I hurt myself and torture myself getting all these stupid blue coins? The Pintas are some selfish pricks, I tell you what. They are ridiculous in this game, hoarding up the shine sprites and shit, but I'll still play as them in Mario Kart World. Why the fuck not? So here's a game that I very rarely talk about, and that is Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Now, I actually like the Oddworld games. I haven't played all of them, which is why I haven't ranked them, but the ones that I have played have been pretty entertaining. They provide some really unique, interesting worlds, and the gameplay is good in them. But I remember the first time I played through Abe's Odyssey, I was mad. I was like, what the fuck do people see in this series? This gameplay sucks. Okay, I don't think it actually sucks. I was just really mad at the game. It's probably one of those mad cause bad, and I'll be the first to admit that I'm not all that good at 2D platformers, but I really genuinely struggled with Abe's Odyssey. It is so easy to be killed in this game, I guess like in real life. It is so easy to die. You fall from too far of a height, which isn't even all that far, you're dead. You touch one of these enemies, you're dead. You touch certain things in the environment, you're dead. And I just remember thinking that this game was very punishing. Like, it can be very difficult to get through some of these levels, and it requires just way too much trial and error. There's a lot of trial and error in this game, and that's why I remember raging at it, because I was just doing the same sections of these levels over and over, trying time and time again, hoping that things would go different, and then usually they didn't. I guess Voss from Far Cry 3 really was right. I was absolutely going insane. Shout out Far Cry 3. None of those games had me raging except New Yawn because of how dull it was. But anyway, Abe's Odyssey, yeah, the trial and error really got to me, and this was one game that I struggled to beat. And I didn't even try to get all of the Mudokons. I cannot imagine trying to get all of the Mudokons. I do want to try the remake for this one. I bet it fixes a lot of my issues with it, and I'll probably enjoy it a bit more. I'm hopeful. Oh, you thought I was done with racing games? No, I'm not done. I got one last one, and that is F-Zero GX. Yeah, this game, I mean, it's F-Zero GX. Do I really need to say anything else about it? It is genuinely one of the most difficult games ever made. It's one of the hardest games I've ever beaten, and I still can't believe to this day that as a kid I was actually able to beat F-Zero GX. The campaign is just so unbelievably difficult. I've talked about this game and its difficulty plenty of times. It's like the hardest GameCube game ever made, and it really, all these years later, will still test you. It's crazy just how high the difficulty spikes get in this game. From the second mission to the rest of the game, it is nothing but a constant battle. Some missions though are absolutely harder than others. The race against Black Bull and the other racers, that shit's tough. The shit with the bomb and the final race with no barriers whatsoever, yeah, I was on that for hours. I raged at this game as a kid so many times, like I don't even genuinely know how many times I actually rage quit this one. It was well over 5 or 6 times, that's all I can say, and it was from several different races. And then the actual Grand Prix modes, I mean, yeah, that shit's also like stupidly difficult. I didn't even get all of the characters. I just didn't want to do that to myself. Even back then, I knew I didn't want to do that to myself, and I just moved on to another game. What's crazy is that F-Zero GX has finally been re-released on the Nintendo Switch Online 2, and I immediately saw people go, wow, I can't believe how difficult this game is. I can't believe how crazy hard it is. Yeah, what, did you think this was a meme? No, F-Zero GX really actually is that difficult. It will burn your house down, steal your dog, kick you in the nuts, and then spit on your Wendy's spicy nuggets. And you know what? We're just not going to have any of that here, so we're going to move on to the next game before I get any more heated. So here we have another Souls-like with Nioh. Now, I've played a lot of Souls-likes. I've beaten just about every single one I've played, but man, Nioh, this game got me tilted. It didn't get me as mad as KHAZAAAN or even Dark Souls 2, but I remember getting pretty mad at this. And I'm not talking about Nioh 2, I'm talking about Nioh 1. I think Nioh 1 is actually quite a bit harder than Nioh 2. They give you less tools, the enemies are more bullshit, and I thought the bosses were just generally more difficult than what the second game had. I think the second game is a lot more balanced, it's a lot more engaging, and it's just a better experience overall. But man, Nioh 1, I remember there were a few bosses where it took me well over an hour or two to beat them, and I was just like, please, can I do something else in this game? I just do not want to fight this stupid boss over and over and over. And I can think of at least one instance where I just had to put the game down. I was so mad. It was another one of those, I'm about to beat the boss after like an hour or two of trying, and yeah, it didn't happen. I got greedy, I made a mistake, I fucked up, whatever the case was, it doesn't matter. I didn't beat the boss and I was pretty mad. I still enjoyed my time with Neo 1, but yeah, I do remember being quite frustrated. And if we're being 100-100 here, I actually have never gone back to the game after beating it, and I don't really plan to either. If I'm gonna go back to Neo, it's gonna be Neo 2. But hey, we got Neo 3 coming. I'm sure it's gonna be hard, but it's probably gonna be pretty good too. And then the last game for today, Donkey Kong 64. It might be easy to forget nowadays, but Donkey Kong used to have some really difficult games. Bonanza is the exception where it's not actually all that difficult. The older Donkey Kong games got pretty fucking tough, and 64, oh yeah, it's up there. I don't think it's as hard as the country games, but it frustrated me way more than the country games. Despite my grievances with it, I've played this game many times. I played it as a kid, as a teenager, and now as an adult. And I've gotten hella tilted with this game as a kid, as a teenager, and as an adult. And it's always in the same area. It's these fucking minigames. I despise the minigames of Donkey Kong 64. They just kind of ruin the whole fucking experience, in my opinion. Like, there's plenty of good things in Donkey Kong 64. The movesets are cool. Playing as all the other Kongs are cool. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain in the ass that you gotta do all the backtracking and all that. But the minigames, I got no love for, like, any of these. They're frustrating. They're annoying. They're difficult. A lot of them feel unfair, they're cheap, and they're just annoying, especially when you're like swatting the flyaway, when you're in the minecart, when you're doing the race. Like, it just never ends. So many of these feel just random. The fucking slot machine. The list goes on and on. Usually there's a really strict time limit, it feels overly punishing, and you have to do some of these more than once. Every minigame shows up like 2 or 3 times, and it's just like, come on, we did not need this many minigames. And then you gotta play through Donkey Kong, the arcade game, and then you gotta play through Jetpack, you gotta get all these collectibles and do all this shit just to see the final boss, and it feels never ending at times, and it's still frustrating all these years later. Donkey Kong 64, man, I love the music, I love the vibes, I love the Kongs, I love the DK rap, but then these fucking minigames show up and everything is just ruined. My day is ruined, my disappointment is immeasurable, and I want to play something else. Genuinely want to play something else, and so I'm going to play something else. I'm going to talk about something else too. That's the end of this video. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Try to not be angry, but you know, if you made it to this part of the video, you can tell me how angry some of these games have gotten you. I genuinely would love to know. I'm sure plenty of people got the popcorn out for this one. I feel like I'm usually pretty level-headed and I'm pretty cool about things, but these were just 15 games where I absolutely was not that. Okay, I need to stop rambling, so I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye now.